Hello, peoples. It's time again. This week, we are doing Changeling the Dreaming. One of the systems I know absolutely dick about. So, I hope to learn a few things tonight. We're going to be running a bit late for one of our guests. He's racing home, hopefully safely.
I'm actually just going to add him right now.
Oh, here we go. Awesome. So I'll do our intros here in just a second as soon as we get him added to the stream. This is our 14th show. We have gained 15 new subscribers since the last show. We are up to 85? Yeah, 85. So I am just super tickled. I really am. And I figured it was going to take us about a year before we really got the snowball rolling to get us, to where we're... And we're still working on our formula a bit. So it's... we're hopefully, as I've noticed, all of our guests have fun. The folks who show up for the live show are having way much fun because we interact with them, and that seems to be a very popular thing. So, did we get Simon yet?
No, we're running into some difficulties getting him added to the show here.
Yeah, there's another Skype update.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's the thing. I noticed when I fired up my Skype, it's been corrupted. I'm getting some weird graphical glitches. I mean, some strange stuff. And I can't even tell who's talking. Other than I know you people, the folks that I do know, I know their voices. But normally when I drop everything to the toolbar, it will show me who's talking, whenever somebody speaks. And now I can't even get that. I've just got this weird blue box that doesn't show dick. So, all right, I'll go ahead and introduce Eric. My man, Eric, gotta love him. He showed up on a night when he's just not feeling very well, and we thank him for that.
Oh, you're welcome, man. Anytime I can talk about this kind of stuff always makes me feel better, regardless of how my body is not cooperating. Yeah, that's the best word for it.
That's awesome. You're going to wind up being our most prolific guest. I have a very, very strong feeling about that. And you're very knowledgeable, too, which is one of the reasons why you've been one of our most prolific guests. And you're actually a really nice guy. We like having you.
Well, thank you. All around, thank you. Yes.
And, of course, my co-host, Jakob.
Hello, everybody. I'm sure you've already heard me earlier, and it looks like we actually got Simon on here now.
Do we have Simon with us?
Yes,
he looks
I'm here
like
now.
He's here. He is
awesome.
Here now.
Simon.
Hello.
I'm Peter, and of course you already know Jacob. And welcome. We're already live. So
I think knowing me might be a bit of a stretch, but we have communicated a little bit.
Yeah, well, got that. Yeah, Simon is going to be our resident Fae for this evening. Because
double entendres.
Well, as I mentioned before you showed up, I know absolutely dick about this system. Okay, I'm familiar passingly with most of the rest of the stuff, but Changeling just never appealed to me. It's just too...
We used to have a thing that we used to say a lot amongst other guys, people that played White Wolf games, was that each of the since Vampire, each of the different games had a different level of angst, right?
Yeah.
So Vampire is like Guinness angst, right? And Changeling is angst light.
What's an angst?
Oh, that is not true at all.
Well, no, and that's the thing, is I've spent the last hour and a half reading up. So I've got a little bit under the hood, so we'll see what's happening here.
As I said, that is a joke.
Simon, would you like to tell us about you and what you do and who you are and where you are? And
Well, I'm a me, and I do me things. Otherwise, Changeling's kind of my favorite White Wolf game, which tends to get you excommunicated from other gamers.
right. I will be honest. It does tend to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know
and
why.
Oh, I know why.
There's room for everybody. I mean, come on.
Miss the point most of the time. Because really, this is a game that the core theme of it is the world you know is passively killing you through apathy.
Yeah, I did catch that.
That's a hard level of subtle.
So it's
not angst, but subtle suffering to get to.
So, from what little I have been able to glean, is that seems to be one of the more tragic systems. It's like shit has just gone south, and there's really nothing you can do about it.
Pretty much, it's the experience of the invisible minority. You look like a normal person. You're born into a family of normal people who usually, at best, will either accept you and slowly hurt you through their complete misunderstanding of what's going on, or you just run the fuck away and hope to make the best of it.
Yeah, I did notice that some of the Kith are more into just hiding as opposed to actually trying to actively do something about it.
Yeah, and then you get the she who just want to play politics the whole time.
Yeah, well, politics, other than werewolf, politics seems to be the thing.
What?
Right, but she fixer
Did
special.
you just say other than werewolf?
Okay,
There's
the
Yes, he did say that.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did, and there's a reason.
Man,
for
we're
it.
gonna have to argue again.
Yes, we are. It's what makes this shit interesting. God damn it!
I know. Actually, man, dude, I've actually played a lot of really good Changeling games. It's just that it's one of those games, kind of like Wraith. It all depends on who's running the game, because you've also got that side where it's like some people want to play like a D&D thing with White Wolf rules, which I've seen done before, and I usually just kind of went, okay. Yeah, I kind of got up and said, I'm going to watch the store now, or whatever I was doing at the time, And then there's been some other ones where it's been some really, really, really fun stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, and one of the things I really enjoy about Changeling is it's versatile enough to be able to have a chill moment where you think it's a hack and slash, and then if you have a good GM, it turns into 3 games later consequences.
Ah, okay. Well, one of the other things that I've been able to pick up is that, just given the impression here, is that the Changelings seem to be the oldest of the races, as far as, since they're nature-oriented, they were here before all the other craziness, even if you accept the Abrahamic silliness that goes on with vampire.
Honestly, I don't know how much I buy into that one. I've kind of golden ruled that in my games into kind of a Zen koan. How can you have dreams without things to dream? Kind of a thing.
Okay. Because
so, like the anime, are they what human beings dream about, that gorgeous mountain off there, or are they what that gorgeous mountain dreams about human beings?
Oh, okay. So, Eric, what's your take on this? This whole, this system in general, and why isn't it as popular as say Mage?
Well, I'm before we get into that, I just want to comment that I actually know a shit ton of people that love Changeling, that either actively play it and last year when the Kickstarter hit for the Changeling 20, my news feed was nothing but Changeling 20 for the entire length of that Kickstarter, because everybody I knew that gamed pretty much was sharing about the update or how many days left, and come on guys, more people got to get on this. So I think Changeling might be kind of like Wraith, where there's a lot more people that like it than actually play it.
Oh, okay.
But I do know a lot of people who actively play it as well. So,
well, we were going to get into that because I had a specific request from Vanessa to talk about it and there were a couple of other folks that were along the same lines of like, why the fuck can't I find anybody to play? You know, it doesn't seem to, like I said, it doesn't seem to be as popular, but apparently it is. Again, very much like Wraith. A lot of people like Wraith. Not a lot of people play Wraith.
So I'll stop interrupting, and then Eric can answer.
No, dude, you were supposed to get the first question anyway, and that was my bad.
That's fine.
I am so sorry.
There was a question?
Yeah, he's supposed to get the first question of the night. Go, man.
No, you got it. Go. You ask your question again, because Eric forgot it.
Okay. Why do you... Okay, what was it? Hold on.
Oh, why don't more people play it?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. Wow. Mostly it's one of the things is that as time went by, it became harder to find a lot of the books, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's true.
Besides PDF, I have not been able to actually find some of the books I used to have, back when. Another thing is it's hard to find which exact audience it speaks to, because it can't. Like I said, it's one thing about all the White Wolf games, both old and new, is that they all speak to a kind of the same audience, just differently. And a lot of people that, like I said, for me, a lot of people, at least while I was because this came out while I was in Austin and playing, a lot of people there, like I said, tend to go towards we were always in the dreaming, like almost all the time.
Yeah.
And it came to a point, and at least it was like 2 or 3 people that were storytelling that did almost the exact same thing, that I just kind of said, okay, I'd rather do something else with the game. And when the LARP version came out, the game got me in a little bit of trouble, but just a little tad bit.
That sounds like an interesting story.
Just showing off that red cap to every damn body, huh?
Well, kind of. But not the one you're thinking of.
That's what oh, I'm sorry. I just went there, didn't I?
Oh, no, I decided to... I might as well tell the story while I'm here. I decided to... because at that moment I was storytelling a couple of other things at a con, and they're like, we need somebody to do something interesting with the Changeling, and I'm like, okay. And I went ahead and made, I guess, one of the most potentially offensive Fae you could do.
Okay.
I made a unseelie satyr who was somewhat of a grump who would hang outside of the porn shops to get glamour from people.
Oh, okay, yeah.
His name was Sam Sleaze, and he wore a trench coat.
Of course he did.
That's it.
That's awesome. I love it.
So between having the nice pipes ability and some other things, let's just say it made things very interesting, and then they told me to stop.
Okay, so Simon, what Kith are you more drawn to as far as playing?
As a player,
Yeah.
my favorite Kith to play is probably the most annoying one. I really enjoy
Puka.
the Pucka's Flaw because it's the Malkavian of the game, and I admit that. But it's in the same way. There's a right way to play a Malkavian, and then there's the boring way to play a Malkavian.
Yeah, fish milks. We don't do fish milks. It's just
Yeah. And my favorite character in our game, he annoyed the local she-lord, and they sent him away. And I brought him back in our werewolf game because he was a dog puka, so it was like, maybe he'll fit the bone gnar or something.
Yeah.
Because the mission they ended up giving him was to go find the local lycanthropes and spy on them.
Fucking lichens.
And it ended up being that I forget what the shaman type is, but the shaman type guy rolled really badly, and died.
Oh no.
And my pucka had primal. So he stepped into the healer spiritualist role and actually convinced them that he was a fine, upstanding Gauro, and actually succeeded at his suicide mission.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
That's
I
awesome.
hope that either Matt or Igor hears this later, because this sounds like something they just jump at.
It was really funny because later in the game we picked up a Nuisha, and my character and the Nuisha both kind of figured it out at the same time that they were both spies. And they both kind of just looked at each other and went, "Sup."
Okay, here's a question. Okay, so I'm assuming, like I said, I don't know a lot, but I'm assuming that the Fae can breed just like the lycanthropes can. You know.
How do you mean that?
Okay, vampires don't breed; they embrace. Wraiths definitely don't breed, but you know, you can actually get a werewolf from two werewolves. What happens if you breed a werewolf with a changeling?
Nothing.
Nothing?
That is just,
Like-
it says in the rules, no.
Damn.
Yeah,
'Cause that
most
could be
likely
fun.
you're going to get a kinfolk who might be kinane too.
Yeah, which means that the grandchildren could be Guru, or the grandchildren could be some changeling, but you're not going to be able to crossbreed and get Power Gamer's wet dream of combining different splats.
So that's what I was thinking about. I was like,
Well, that's what
you know,
everybody sometime probably thinks about. It's why abominations annoy the fuck out of me about embracing a werewolf. It's like, give your head a shake, pick a game, and play it.
Wait a minute. I thought if a kindred bit a werewolf, the werewolf dies, and vice
well,
versa.
Let's not get off topic here. We're talking about
I'm just you got us off topic. You brought up another subject. Anyway, moving on. Okay, so now there are a couple of these Kith that I don't hear about a lot, like the Issue or the Knockers, or the Slua even.
Really?
I mean, red caps get brought up all the time. I don't know how many times they've been brought up just during the show. But how come?
Redcaps attract a lot of attention. Slua, part of their thing is not attracting attention. So that could be why you hear about the Redcaps more than the Slua.
Yeah,
It's
but
kind of
Right.
like, it's
during-
also the same. Oh, sorry, man.
Go ahead.
Oh, it's also the same thing with like in Werewolf, where you end up having to tell people to not play the Haroon Get a Fenris every time because they get more dots, type of thing.
more dots.
Yeah. You know, it's like, okay, I've got 5 Haroon Get a Fenris. Okay, you 2 can be one, you 3 make something else. You know, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
The other problem you get too is like all of White Wolf has some compatibility issues with the other games, Changeling and Wraith have really bad cross-compatibility with the other games.
We've discussed the Wraith cross-compatibility issue on more than one occasion, but what is your take on the reasoning behind why Changelings don't pop up more often?
They didn't get a revised edition.
Ah, there you go.
They're just really fragile in comparison.
That's a big one, too. Like I said, books being one of the biggest issues with playing Changeling until they redid it for the new one. But yeah, I mean, throughout the years, we were playing out in different stuff in Austin. I mean, I've seen a lot of different types of characters. Trolls are pretty popular amongst some guys. I know a bunch of people like Slua, and Puka are everywhere, So
yeah,
I mean,
they seem to be like the second most popular outside of Red Caps.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I like satyrs, I like knockers, they're pretty cool, and I like Slua. Those are like the three things I kind of really dig. But then again, I like interacting with the other ones too as those characters, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The one time I did get to play Changeling, I played a Red Cap because Red Cap and Slua were the only two that really caught my eye, and there was only, I think, like one or two other PC Red Caps, and I think there was a lot of Shi players and Pukas, but the rest of the Kith were just kind of scattered about one or two of each.
Which I personally want to know why people are
experience.
so scared of playing satyrs.
Yeah, but I could have serious fun with the satyr.
We had a couple satyrs when I played, in the one group I was with. So.
Oh, okay. I usually was like the only one.
The thing I've noticed too, setting up our next game, which is going to be Changeling, is the other Kiths, especially when you get out into the Ghislaine, because they have weird cultural connotations and maybe were badly written, that's an argument you can have, people have a hard time figuring out why they'd want to play them. Like, I'm trying to encourage my players to play Nunahi, because that's a really fun angle that we haven't explored before, and nobody really wants to. So I'm probably going to rewrite that game.
Huh. That bothers me a little, is that people would just completely avoid playing a particular clan, Kith, whatever, because they don't think that they're worthy of that particular. Like I said, I keep going back to vampire because that's what I'm most familiar with. But they and I'm very guilty of this, so I'm going to admit that, is that there are some of us who will refuse to play Nas or whatever because they just don't want to deal with either the clan downside or whatever. And I've noticed. Go ahead.
And to be fair, the Nunahi have some serious disadvantages that I'm kind of golden ruling.
Well, that's it. Page 195. If the rules don't fit, change the rule.
Because, their method of gathering glamour is brokenly weak. They can only do it once a season.
Huh.
Ouch. That's rough.
That would suck, yeah. A lot. Okay, so let's move on to the courts. Okay, Eric, give me your take on the Sealy.
Gosh, I have to really think about that. At least try to remember being part of a Sealy court, because that, I think, was a rarity, at least amongst the players I was with. It was in our nature to not mess around with the Sealy court so much. But then again, you have to have one to balance out the other. So, yeah.
Okay. Simon, on Sealy.
Well, it's one of my little issues with Changeling, too, is that the courts are written in a way that doesn't reflect the mythology, which is okay. but it's not elucidated on enough for my taste. The Unseelie, as they're written, are either supposed to be monstrous, or they're supposed to be non-traditionalist, non-conformist rebels who've been out of power for the last 600 years.
Which is a piddling amount of time, I'm just saying. But
well, it's, 60 so mortal lives for them.
Okay.
All they've been trapped that long.
All right, I'm gonna throw this one open. The Shadow Court. Because that one looked interesting to me.
The Shadow Court has a lot of potential to be good, but the way it was written was confusing.
What do you think?
They're
Man.
sort of autumn people-y changelings who might be monsters, but honestly, they just didn't get the developmental focus they needed to be.
Yeah, I think they've only, kind of scrolling through some books, it's really, this is a really, the original Changeling is always hard to talk about because of the fact that a lot of stuff just did not get, developed as much as a lot of the other games did. And a lot of times, you got to kind of make up your own stuff, which on one end is pretty cool. I like that personally as a storyteller or anything else. I like to make up my own stuff and, do what I want. But there is a definite book on the Shadow Court called The Shadow Court.
Shadow Court, yeah.
But I really think that they were meant more towards being more antagonistic, kind of like I want to say like the Nefandi in Mage. It's like it's another thing that's there, but like the technocracy is there, and then you got the Nefandi. So you've got all these little different weird little factions. If that am I making any sense?
Yes, you're making. No, it works for me.
Okay, I'm just making sure because.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
It sounds. No, here's the thing. Okay, I'm about to get in trouble here with one of our listeners, but I've been talking to who might be an option for a new girlfriend, and she's listened to a couple of the shows, and she says, it sounds like English. But it's not coming through. It doesn't translate. I said, yes, it does. I said, you just have to understand. I said, these systems are so bloody intricate and this seems to be one of those systems that just didn't get enough love from, well, okay. So, here's the thing. When you put out a game system like Changeling or Mummy even, that just didn't get enough love. But they're such good systems that they could have done so many really wonderful things with, and it looks like they might actually get a shot at it now. I'm not sure about Mummy, but Changeling looks like it might actually be resurrected. Okay.
Well, it was. They did a 20th anniversary version of it.
The Kickstarter did go?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
See, because we need the full systems.
Like 110 kits in the 20th anniversary thing.
Holy
which
mother
is
Bob!
Yeah, they. That's the thing is they blew the doors off of so many of their targets.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and we're finally getting Kith Book Boggin, so I can read about my Minnesotan neighbors.
Okay, so
See, then I'm going to say the thing I always usually say when it comes to some of the different books. They fixed a lot of this stuff, but nobody likes to play those games or talk about those games. So
no,
yeah,
we don't. And there's a damn good reason for that.
Why?
Because it sucks. None of that crap is worthwhile. And I have
Right.
a very, very good feeling that they will never be brought up again.
Which,
Oh no! Oh, they
Talking
will.
about like New World of Darkness.
Yes.
Oh,
dude, you really need to check out the New World of Darkness Changeling.
Yeah.
Honestly, my
That
personal
might have
opinion,
they might have actually helped out with that.
well,
with
I
Changeling.
think they actually spent more. I think they've done more for that than they did for the original Changeling.
As a matter of
Like-
fact, it came out before Mage did.
Yeah,
Yeah, they actually sat down and said, "We're going to do vampire and werewolf and changeling."
and it went over. Huh?
And honestly, the Changeling: The Lost is a really, really good game.
it is.
I actually like that a lot. And as far as the New World of Darkness goes, that is by far my favorite New World of Darkness game.
Okay. All right. I'll give you that. Because as I understand it, Mummy the Risen turned out to be pretty good too.
New Changeling is weird. It has the system I always wish old Changeling had, but the core morality trait makes it basically impossible to do anything interesting because you're hiding and you're punished for not hiding.
Oh, okay. See, that's the thing I've noticed with a lot of the New World of Darkness stuff is that they use some of the really cool shit, but then they say, no, you can't use any of the really cool shit. And I'm like, stop.
Isn't that the whole concept of the masquerade, dude?
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
as an Archon, aren't you like the
Yeah, but you can
embodiment
do
of
certain
don't
things
do cool
as
things?
long as they aren't violations. You can
Don't do
you can
cool
listen.
things.
You can parkour across rooftops as long as nobody sees you.
How do you know if nobody sees you, though?
Well, if it pops up, then the prince deals with it. Usually, if it's a minor violations aren't that big a deal. But if you, like I said, you break the sound barrier down Fifth Avenue, somebody's going to notice. Okay.
So here's the thing about the morality of Changeling, old Changeling. It was a tension between being normal and accepted and being exceptional but misunderstood and probably having a really hard time of it. And they did that really well by, if you actually read deep enough to find the part where they explained it, having you have to balance your willpower, glamour, and banality. Otherwise, too much glamour and you start going into insanity, and too much banality and you start losing your fey self. Which is fun role-playing, and it's not so granular and punitive as having a true morality trait in the sense of humanity.
Oh, okay. All right.
I always found the banality the confusing part for me, and I don't know why. It's like it's just something about it. Just was really difficult for me to wrap my brain around.
Yeah, it's poorly written in a lot of places, but having read now most of the original Run's books, not all of them, because some of them are ridiculously bad, but I think it's a naming issue. If they had called it disbelief, it would have gotten more to what I think the meaning they were trying to get to was, because in a lot of the parts of Changeling everybody reads, like the core book, it goes into technology being anathema, when that's kind of the Knockers and House Dougal's whole thing.
Yeah, I did notice
And it makes
that.
it hard to play them, because players will misunderstand and not be able to see, the creative energy that goes into scientific endeavor.
Okay. All right.
That's actually an interesting way to put it when you say disbelief, because that almost sounds like the glamour disbelief system would actually be cool to have for Changeling as well as Mage, instead of dealing with Paradox, to just have it like a disbelief thing. But
Yeah, and like when you're playing a Changeling, you've got that inside of yourself too, because say you're a 7-year-old who is in their mortal self, a normal 7-year-old sized person, and they think they're really like a 6-foot-tall, 200-pound troll. And you're trying to get away from something, and there's a crack you could crawl through if you were just a kid, but you're also a huge troll, and you can disbelieve yourself into fitting through that hole, but you take a point of temporary banality for doing that.
Yeah.
It's really rich role-playing with just a little bit of system to back it up.
So you were saying, Eric, that your experience has been mostly unseelie. You said you haven't dealt with the Seelie courts very much.
Yeah, I mean, as a player, for the most part, it was just, I mean, it had a lot to do with the people I was playing with. It just, it always invoked that, I don't know, we were like a bunch of angsty goths, man. So, I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, there really isn't.
What's an angst?
So,
It's a cross with a little loopy thing on the top.
no, that's an onk. It's an onk. No, I mean, there was just something, I mean, about the Seelie Court that was like, it just, for us, it sounded way too stuck up. And it kind of, you know, and at least the way it was presented, I guess by whoever was running it at that time, it was just oh man, sorry, you have to
Well,
yeah, they're the
brain a
camera.
little bit, man. But I mean, for us, the core. I mean, like he was saying, you know, what a lot of what the book was is that, you know, yeah, I mean, you're like a 7-year-old who thinks he's a troll, whose parents probably don't, you know, really believe what he's talking about. Eventually, he might end up in a nice little home with a little window, with a little, you know, padded, you know, stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's always a possibility, you know.
So, here's the thing. Okay, so the Fae in general, it doesn't require that you have Fae genetics in your bloodline somewhere. It just happens.
A little bit of both.
Okay.
A little bit of both, yeah. There are like, you know, the Kith, which are, you know, like basically kind of, you know, changeling kinfolk, for lack of a better term.
Mm.
You know,
And it tends to run in families, but it doesn't have to.
yeah.
Like when the Shia resurgence happened, they just kind of popped up into beautiful human beings who maybe had Fae blood, but it's unlikely there were that many.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's not as prevalent as say the werewolves.
Well, werewolves isn't that common either for the families.
Well,
like
that's bite or the metas, but that's
but it's still like we're talking about like out of like how many in a generation is going to be a werewolf. Like you could have like 100 cousins, and you might get 1 or 2 Geru out of them. It's not the whole family isn't Geru.
Right.
And it's the same thing with Changeling,
unless
right?
you're breeding for metas.
Well, yes, but that's a totally different situation.
Okay.
Totally different.
All right. Okay. Like I said, I'm learning here, so
Yeah.
bear with me.
What kind of show is this, anyway?
So, here's the thing: is why don't you think people would want to play Changeling more often?
Systems are broken, and the narrative is a little fractured.
It has nothing to do with the actual Kith or the what do they call them for y'all's powers?
The arts.
Yeah, the arts. Yeah, it's nothing to do with any of that. It's just that the systems are nerfed.
Well, so the arts, some of them are really, really well themed, and they make sense internally. And then sometimes you get stuff like Primal, or whatever the water elemental's power is, that are, you feel like they were somebody's joke, and you can't quite figure out how it all goes together.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, because I don't know anything about, that was my next line of questioning, was about the arts. And I don't know, the deal with the cantrips and all that.
Oh
'cause-
god, the cantrips.
That's a whole other thing in itself, really.
Is that a
Yeah,
whole
the-
nother show or what?
No, you could do one, but I mean, it's almost like trying to do like spells and mage.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's but easier. I will say that a lot easier.
Because the only
Some
thing
of those
I know
thing-
about cantrips is that thieves use them in D&D. That's it. That's
So,
all
the
I know,
cantrips.
dude.
I'm really excited in Changeling 20th because they're talking about doing epic bunks to power cantrips, which sounds amazing. Where
Yeah,
instead of being like, I stomp my heel 3 times in order to be able to use Wayfair 2, you do like the setup for Sleeping Beauty where you make sure there's a spinning wheel in that kingdom for 20 years, and then you get a shit ton of extra dice in order to do.
Okay.
Oh,
So it's like
they're raising.
It's like setting up a long time ahead of the fact before you actually wind up doing whatever you're going to do.
It sounds like it's related to effort.
Yeah, it's
Maximum
like
effort.
the best. I mean, yeah, that's a really good way of describing like how the bunks work and stuff like that. A lot of the different I want to powers and stuff like that are they're all it's almost like you kind of will things. I don't want to say that too bad because I can't think of a right term for it, but the fact that you are like a fae allows you to affect things strangely. But the way that you do it is through kind of, there are a lot of different old folklore things on what different types of, leprechauns have a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow and things like that, they all have a little kink to them that would allow them to do what they wanted to do. And that's where bunks, first of all, yeah, you could do all this nifty stuff, but it has
Spinning
a disadvantage.
straw into gold, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it has a distinct disadvantage. But what would help you out would be to, click your heels 3 times, or, if I wear this pot on my head, I know that I'm, I have so much, armor type of stuff, and so to everybody else, it looks like, you're a bunch of kids or teenagers running around with a pot on your head. But to everybody that can actually see through it, they see something completely different.
See through the glamour.
Right.
Ah, okay. So do they
Or you
have
could
the
call
same
them a-
limitations for their magic? I'm going to use the term magic here because it's probably not the right one, but that's the best one I can think of. Is they don't have the same limitations that mages do about gross spells?
It's
It's
more like
similar.
yeah. If you do crazy stuff, people don't believe it exists, and the whole thing that fuels the Fae is belief that they exist, and that's really kind of what glamour, in my opinion, and the way I understand it. And correct me if I'm wrong, please, because I do have a tendency to have that happen. Their stuff, if people believe in it more, then it works really well. But if you're around a bunch of people that just don't believe in that sort of stuff, like for instance, if you're a fae and you're in prison, let's just say as a weird, whatever, and you're in prison, not everybody's going to believe that if you take this stick and write these things on a wall that you're going to be able to walk out of the prison.
Even
And
if you do.
And it's going to be extremely hard for you to do that because what banality is that disbelief that you even exist.
Oh, okay. So it's
Right.
like the opposite of paradox kind of situation.
It's
Yeah.
a mix of like a preemptory paradox, but you still get a backlash sometimes. Like if you have a magic broom that lets you fly, one of the things that might happen is disbelief kicks you out of reality and into some random part of the dreaming.
And that's
okay. That's where I was going to go next is the dreaming. But okay, so what is the dreaming?
Okay, so you have the Shadowlands for the Wraiths, right?
Yes.
And you've got the Umbra.
No.
The dreaming, it's kind of like that. Really weird. Pretty much anything that anybody's ever dreamt of.
It's like stepping through the looking glass.
Yeah.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
But amplify Wonderland by like a bunch.
Because I've always assumed Wonderland was very fey. It was just, the whole concept was just there, Even though they didn't get brought up, elves and fairies and things like that didn't get brought up in those stories. But just the whole concept of the place just seemed very weird. And what little I do know is the dreaming is very similar to that.
So the dreaming is one of the places in the game where I have trouble with what they wrote, because the Kithane access the dreaming. The Ghislaine do too, and then the Nunnehi don't get anything to do with that, and the Sien don't get anything to do with that, which has really weird implications.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does.
Weird implications as in...
I'm actually on the chapter on the dreaming right now. It just so happens.
Okay.
So, like, in the game I run, which is Golden Ruled to Hell, like, I just ignored all of that stuff and was like, okay, the Nunnehi obviously get a part of the dreaming. The Sien, we're not playing those because they're basically not changelings. And if you want to play one, you have to rewrite it as a Kith because they're not even compatible with the game. But so the in-game explanation for why the Nunnehi can't access the dreaming is that the genocide against the Native Americans destroyed it.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of interesting, but there are Native Americans alive, probably right down the block from me.
Yeah, but their
on your
whole
show.
culture has been subsumed, though. Their whole way of life has been altered dramatically. So therefore I can understand where that concept would come from.
But any culture that any of these Fae originated from has been warped and changed throughout the
Except
ages
for the
as well.
The Icelandic, those people still, they won't build a road past a boulder because it's a Fae place. Okay? So there are still places that still very much believe in it.
There are still places that very much believe in any particular Native American culture stories.
Yeah.
Yes. American Northwest and the Canadian Northwest specifically.
And Little Earth right by where I live, and White Earth, and, like, you just need to look, and there are lots of Native Americans around from many different bands. I take issue with their part of the dreaming being destroyed because it clearly should not be.
Yes, I would totally agree with
Cut
that.
off maybe, but not destroyed.
Why cut off?
The difference.
Even if their culture has been subsumed to the point where very few of their own people even still believe in what they believed.
But that's the core theme of Changeling.
Yeah. So, like, that's my point, too. Like, that'd be the exact same thing as leprechauns or redcaps or, all of these Fey races. The cultures they come from have been subsumed and amalgamated together. And especially if you're talking about changelings living in North America, where we're all imported from these concepts. Why are we talking about our forgotten culture is worthy enough to have a dreaming, but the Native Americans that we live amongst who still have those beliefs more so than we do, they're not allowed to have a dreaming connection? Like, that just really seems poor arbitration.
Yeah, okay, I get you.
I'm
ahead,
half
Eric.
Native American.
Go ahead, Eric.
I'm half Native American, and yeah, I'd have to agree with you guys on this, on that whole being cut off from the dreaming. Just doesn't make sense because of, I mean, my own personal beliefs and how I was raised and everything else.
Yatta, hey.
Yeah, it's the thing is that everything about my my culture, whatever, is still being passed down. Okay, the same stories are being told. The same, it's continued, but it's all like my grandfather told me taught me everything that I know, and then going to the reservation taught me, the elders taught me other things, so on and so forth. The big difference is that a lot of it's not written down.
No, because most
and a lot
of these
it
people didn't have a written language.
That's correct. Well, they did and they didn't. It all depends on the tribe. But the biggest thing is that if Werewolf took so much straight from Native American, beliefs and cultures that I guess, there was some sort of judgment call, I guess, about system-wise. But otherwise, both Simon and Jacob are absolutely right. It would make no sense for there not to be a Native American dreaming. None at all. Because culturally, that's mostly, what we believe, is that it's all kinds of stuff that goes on. It just doesn't happen to be leprechauns. If that makes sense.
No, yeah,
it makes perfect sense.
Makes perfect sense.
Cool.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, let's talk about the near dreaming.
Well, we actually have a question from a viewer.
Oh, go ahead.
Cool.
Is that
ahead.
okay? Do we want to deal with that first?
Do
okay.
that. Do that. No, let's do that.
A Chris Anderson has a question. He is
who the
wondering.
fuck is that? I have no idea who the fuck that is.
He's in our opinion, how do changelings interact, and what is their impact on the world of darkness as a whole?
As in, well, does he mean how do they interact with others, or how do they interact with themselves?
I'm guessing it would be interacting with others. I'm sure when he hears us discussing this,
I don't see the
toss
Fae
in clarification
interacting with the kindred very often.
It really depends on who it is.
I would say my experience is with Changeling, which, as I said, was just the one game, but it was like a shared universe crossover kind of game. The Changelings spent a fair number of time socializing with Geru and mages on common ground, but tried to stay out of each other's noses. I
would think the interaction between the changelings and the mages would be, and the Geru would be fairly more common than the interactions with the dead, even, because the whole.
Yeah, Chris was wondering for interactions with others. And as a storyteller for Kindred of the East, if you're a changeling and you meet Kuagen, run like hell.
Yeah, right.
In case
scare the hell out of me.
Because glamour is the most highly addictive form of chi that Kuagen can get. It actually gives them artificial enlightenment. And if they accidentally feed on you and get hooked, you're fucked. And if you meet one that is already addicted to it, you're fucked. So run like hell.
Then
What kind of show is this, anyway?
there also is an interaction in Vampire. It happens to be in the Sabbat.
Fuck those guys.
There's a bloodline. There's a bloodline called the Kith that the La Sombra basically more or less made in a roundabout way because of basically being addicted to Fey blood. And there's a big mystery as to how that occurred, but basically, the Kith really keep to themselves a whole lot, mostly because, one, they're blue. Two, They're just generally creepy, and they collect books like nobody's business, and knowledge and everything else. So they're one of those like really not really player character kind of things. But if there's a Kith in the city, most likely he's living underneath a library somewhere. And if you want to know information on just about anything in existence, that's the guy you want to go to.
If the Nosferatu don't have the answer.
Not all of them, no. Not the ones that the Kith have.
Yeah,
and
they'd be the scholarly information, not the active spy network information.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. No, that makes more sense to me.
Like a Kith can say, in 1130, Bob the Bruja did this to, this guy and this guy and this guy. Oh, okay. Well, that explains that. And they also, the Sabbat used that to their advantage.
Okay. All right.
Because they're part La Sombra.
Yeah, the La Sombra just don't seem as that from what I know about the clan, and I do know quite a bit, but it just doesn't seem like they would be very much interested in that particular aspect of the world.
You Tremere so underestimate them.
Yeah, fuck you too, buddy.
Yeah. You're
I love my co-host, but damn it.
You're trying to talk power. Oh, never mind. I gotta sit back down, man.
You okay?
That's all the La Sombra are about. Power and control.
Okay.
So they'd make great friends with the She.
Right. I think is how because they never explained it, and I don't think they ever will, how the Kith had happened.
Yeah, they kind of modified them a little bit in the Dark Ages 20th anniversary, where it's almost like they're a template. They don't have to be La Sombra. You can pick a different base clan that they used to be, and they kind of hint at other ways that they may have arisen, but that could just be weird-ass shit that they're letting you do in the Dark Ages. And maybe only the La Sombra bloodline's the one that survived to modern times. But they kept it. Their origination's very secretive.
Which, if you can find it anywhere, the Dark Ages Fae book is great.
Well, yeah, because I would think there would be more people during that time period who would believe more into elves and fairies than modern day.
Simon, did you ever get involved with the Dark Ages Fae?
No, I didn't. I kind of missed that boat.
Oh yeah, if you find it, it's a really good read and really interesting. In a lot of people really, as far as the Dark Ages books and the different time period books go, a lot of people really like clung on to that for like dear life, for lack of a better term. Because it was one of the last Changeling books released, really, and it was also one of the I want to say kind of one of the best as far as like in one book you kind of got everything that you needed right there.
So it's kind of like an animate.
Yeah, a little bit. And Fae were not as and I hate to say even use the word nice. Like they are in the modern. I mean, because they're not all nice in modern times, obviously. But I mean, they were like really, really not nice. Because I think it was something like the Shadow Court was really, in control of a lot of stuff, and it was a lot of Well,
that's kind of the thing too. It depends on how you're playing the game in a modern setting, because, like, if you pull more from the mythology, they're the good neighbors. They're not morally good. I mean, the difference between an unseelie and a seelie in the traditional sense is the unseelie is going to deprive you of water to kill you. The seelie is going to drown you.
Pretty much.
By the way, Jacob, I just noticed you goofed.
Which?
You posted last show.
No, I didn't. That's the picture that shows on the link.
Is it?
Yeah, it does that. It when you go live, because I can see on YouTube it says Changeling the Dreaming 14, but the icon that shows until we're done recording this episode, it'll show last week's icon when you share it on.
That's bull.
Well, you complain to YouTube because I
will.
didn't do it. Well, and in Dark Ages too, like think about the origins of fairy tales, right? Like Grimm's fairy tales and some of the other ones more older and darker. You know, we've really whitewashed fairy tales a lot, which I think is also why a lot of people kind of see it as being the world of light, not world of darkness, right? And when really, like, go to the roots of fairy tales, that's where these guys should be coming from, right? Like you said, you know, the seelie will just drown you in water instead of make you die of thirst.
Well, that's the thing, was if you go back and read the original Grimm's fairy tales, they are fucked up.
Well, yeah, but even in the World of Darkness canon, the Tuatha De Danan's enemy in World of Darkness are the Fomori-ish, which are huge, massive pains in the butt that werewolves almost don't want to fight.
Oh? There's like something werewolves don't want to deal with?
Well, they'll fight and die.
Because in general, I've noticed those guys are like immortal and freaking, 10 feet tall and bulletproof. You know?
They also don't want to fight She from one of the particular houses that has a traditional enmity with House Fianna, or werewolf group Fianna.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I always wondered about that particular.
And if you want if you really want the roots of the original Grimm fairy tale sort of thing, that's what Changeling the Lost is all about.
Yeah, I always kind of wished that Changeling the Dreaming had done more with the Enchanted and the Kinane, because the She treat them really badly on general purposes, and the commoners aren't a whole lot better.
Oh. See, I'm learning all kinds of cool shit tonight. That's awesome.
They're treating everybody
like Changeling the Lost is also called a storytelling game of beautiful madness. So it's got a different bend to it, but it's a lot of the Grimm's fairy tale stuff.
Oh, okay.
At its core, I'm sorry, I'm still thumbing through the Shadow Court book because it's kind of cool. Just
I noticed that was kind of hip. Like I said, I only got about an hour and a half to read in to as much as what's going on. All right, let's move on to the far dreaming. All right, Simon, it's all you, man.
So, this is another thing that I golden rule the hell out of, but my cosmology for Changeling uses the near dreaming as a near Earth realm where you have things that might represent something that's on Earth, like you can have the dreaming version of San Francisco, or you could have the dreaming version of a particular redwood forest, or a really pretty lake, or a really awful hellhole nuclear waste site. The far dreaming, I use it as a patchwork of what things are dreaming, so it doesn't have to make sense. For example, you can have an area that is a fairly well-adjusted human being's dreamscape, where it's just disjointed parts of their life. And then next to that, you can have a really poorly adjusted human being's dreamscape, where it's all about torturing pets or something. And then next to that, you can have that beautiful mountain dreaming of something. And it's off the silver path and the trods, so in my games, people don't generally go there very often because you are going to get lost and you're going to get fucked up.
Come back different from the way you went in.
If you come back.
If you come back.
I just pulled up the book, Nightmares and Dreams and Nightmares, where it talks about a lot of the different, the far dreaming, the near dreaming, and the fact that if you go into the far dreaming, you may end up in the Shadowlands, you may end up in, the Umbra, all kinds of fun stuff. You never know where you're going to end up, which is kind of interesting.
So they're interlinked, is what you're saying? Is the far dreaming is interlinked with the Shadowlands and the
basically it's there's a lot of really weird. Well, first of all, I mean the dreaming in and of itself is weird and crazy, no matter where you're at, whether it's far or near, whatever. But it depends on what path you take, and there are some paths that are only one way, and those paths are the ones that you don't want to go on because those usually end up in like the black spiral, or they end up in just
unless
really
you're from
nasty.
House Baylor, which is where you're trying to get.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Places you just do not want to go.
Yeah, right.
Where it's like, as a Fae, if you just, let's say you hop on one of these things, and next thing you know, you are in the black spiral. You would then really quickly cease to exist.
That would be very, very bad.
Yeah, basically your entire existence would be shredded because, it's not a good thing.
Unless you're from House Baylor, because they're associated with the Fomorians, and they have an alliance with the White Howlers.
Yeah, well, I was getting to the House Balor part.
Go ahead.
I was looking at that right. It's like right in front of me.
And then there's the renegades from House Bowman, I think is how it's pronounced, who were trying to find a way to make a trod out of cold iron so that they can go to the Shadowlands on purpose.
Yeah.
So it's the main thing about the dreaming is you stick to the trods, which means you're going to get fucked over by the she, but you're not likely to get torn apart by nightmares.
Oh my!
Wow. This book actually has an entire almost topography kind of thing of the deep dreaming.
Oh, yeah, that was where we were going next, was the deep dreaming. I was getting ready to look at the, here it is. The dreaming geography. But go ahead, Eric. You got us there. Let's do this.
From mostly, I personally, I never mess with it. But it's almost like your different powers and stuff. You're kind of go haywire, as in they're amplified, extremely amplified, from what I can tell here. Your different cantrips, your things like that. For example, the simple Wayfarer cantrip, Hopscotch, is far wilder in the deep dreaming. A Cathane who meant to leap over a tree might very well find herself developing wings and sailing thousands of feet above the clouds unless she uses a bunk to control her actions. So that's like kind of where a lot of it the powers that kind of come from.
Oh, okay. So what's the deal with Albion, Concordia, Freehold?
Those are a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
Albion is Ireland. Concordia is the unified kingdoms of North America after the She resurgence, and freeholds are sort of like the Elysiums.
Yeah, your local hangout.
Oh, okay. So that's where, yeah, it's where the Fae come to meet and greet and rub shoulders and whatnot.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
I
what they
mean-
did before Concordia fell apart.
Okay, what happened with that?
So, in the 70s, during the Shi resurgence, the Shi popped up and tried to lay claim to their ancestral turf from when they came over originally, slightly before most Europeans did, which is kind of weird because they have a middling relationship with the first people. Some of them struck dreaming enforced oaths with the first people and then disappeared during the shattering, which left bad feelings. But then when they popped up again, they're forced to adhere to those oaths or lose their glamour, which would kill them, which is really ripe territory that didn't get any of the attention it deserved. But they reinforced their oaths on the commoners too. So the commoners went from living in a democratic but really, really hard anarchy kind of situation to living in a glamour-filled feudalism. A lot of them chafed, and there was a war. And then a high king arose who pulled a sword out of somewhere, probably a stone, and united them under his banner and formed a parliament of dreams to give the commoners a semblance of democracy, even though the Shi still hold like 51% of the advocate positions, even though they're 1% of the population, which is also really good territory for role-playing that never got developed particularly well.
Well,
And then the High
hopefully
King
that will change with the V20 stuff.
Hopefully. But then the High King went missing during the war in Concordia plotline, and the kingdom shattered again, and that's where the metaplot kind of left off for End Times.
Are we talking about somebody like Oberon? Is that the...
More like King Arthur.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The metaplot very closely follows the Camelot story, which also
okay.
makes it coincidentally very closely follow the life of Muhammad, which was interesting to me, but
Yeah.
something aside.
Because I would think it would be more like the whole Oberon and Titania kind of story.
Changeling draws really strongly from Shakespeare, much more than it does from mythology, which is a thing you can discuss and argue about at length, because I have. But it's very Shakespearean and English, which is really weird to me because England and the UK
has very
never
little-
really got...
Well, like I said, yeah. Well, the Norse, the Icelandic, well, being part of the same culture, relatively speaking, is that a lot of the stories of the Fae seem to come out of Ireland and the whole Northern Europe flavor kind of thing. At least that's the impression I get.
There's a specific She house that came out of Iceland to address that. House Aeson, I think is how it's pronounced. But the trolls also. But the whole thing... There isn't a word for whitewashing white cultures, but Changeling kind of does that by slamming the She together in the same spiritual realm with trolls, with Icelandic gods, with Greek gods and the satyrs. It's very odd to me.
Well, here's as we mentioned in the last show, was that the White Wolf has started to recruit writers from the parts of the world in which these legends come from, as opposed to having some white guy go to a library.
Which would be great. I'm looking forward to them getting somebody to rewrite the Nunahi, because they need a lot of love.
And that was what was brought up quite a bit, was that, yeah, back in the time before the internet and even before they had the ability to start recruiting from the general population, It was that they just had a bunch of people just go out and research shit in a library, and it didn't always mesh very well. Hopefully,
Yeah, like you get even in core Changeling, you get satyrs being weak to cold iron. That doesn't make any sense.
no, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. Now that I think about it,
And
go ahead.
And on that Native American subject too, I can think of all kinds of different like fae-like things that were believed in. I mean, all across here. It's almost. I mean, one of the interesting things that White Wolf did in all of their books is that they at least made a really good attempt at taking all of like just like every region of the world has a vampire story, or every region of the world has a different, or every culture has a different type of little people, you know, or like the jinn in the Middle East and things like that. So, and then, you know, with mage, it was, you know, they've taken all these different belief things, different monsters and things like that, and put a different slant on them. And yeah, the whole Shakespeare thing is a really, really good analogy, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I mean, in even looking at the different Kith, I actually, you know, I thought about it before, and now that you mentioned it again, it's bringing back the idea. At least the way I see it, it's kind of almost like a crazy mix between King Arthur and A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah, I was about to bring up Midsummer Night's Dream, which seems to be about the only Shakespearean play that really goes into the whole fae kind of thing.
Yeah, but if you look at his historicals, there's a lot of noble-born tragedy going on there, which was clearly drawn upon for the Sidhe and their huge political problems.
Okay, care to elaborate?
I feel like that's a complete thought.
Oh, okay.
So
I thought there was a
Sidhe.
period at the end of that too.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking is that there might be a bit more, you know, once you got the sentence out, that there might have been something else you might wanted to add, but okay.
So the Sidhe are human beings well, not human beings. They're Northern Europeans, if we're being honest, dreams of what nobility was like in the feudal system. So you get both tyrants and beneficent rulers in the same person. And if you look at a lot of Shakespeare's historicals, he was really honest about the way the rulers were, in a way that you really ought not have been able.
Over that.
Yeah, and they were very flawed, and often they come across to us as modern people as the bad guys in the story. They make their own problems, and then something terrible happens. Look at Macbeth, or
that's what I was about to say. Is that, you know, in the terms of things like Macbeth, it's like Shakespeare wrote disaster stories, essentially.
Or
It's like everybody dies.
the Scottish plays, we like to call it. Yeah.
Yes. We don't talk about that play. I forgot. But
hey, I'm not in the theater. Right, I'm at home. I'm not in the theater right now,
Right.
so it also is a habit to call it that too. But yeah.
Well, we refer to Macbeth as the "Everybody is Dead Dave" story.
No,
because like nobody really survives that particular.
well, he
play.
wrote a lot of different stuff, and I mean, wow. I mean, just almost he wrote a lot of tragedies, but yet again, he also wrote a lot of comedies. And I really think that all of his tragedies and his historicals, which are in essence tragedies, get a lot more reading and stage time than a lot of his different comedies. Like, Much Ado About Nothing is absolutely hilarious.
It is. It's funny.
You know? But a lot of people don't end up doing, you know, like the different Shakespeare companies don't
They'd
like
rather
to
do
that.
Romeo and Juliet, where, you know,
Tragedy, or Scottish play tragedy, or yeah, it just goes, on and on. Julius Caesar. But that's like I said, that's a topic for that has nothing to do with this. Besides the fact that you could probably, that just gives me a really cool idea though. To take a chain, make a game, make a court like. Yeah. Anyway.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you take the characters from like Midsummer Night's Dream, turn them into different Changeling Kith, and make them all a different court and a freehold, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, that could be fun.
And then have somebody that's like shows up that's like Macbeth.
So okay, let's see, what else do we have? See, there's so much, there's so limited here over at the wiki.
There we go.
About what we've got here.
It's hard to Google Changeling.
It's just not a lot here. There really isn't, and it's sad. Because I think that all of the systems, if you're going to take the time to actually write a system for a particular, group, so to speak, is you ought to write a system, get it all out there if you can, and that it didn't get, as I pointed out, it didn't get a lot of love. Hunter got essentially the same way. It's just kind of dicked over.
Well, that has a lot to do with
too.
that has a lot to do with business decisions more than anything.
Yeah.
A lot of the reasons that a lot of books didn't get published or things didn't get fleshed out had a lot to do with the way the business ends of things were going at the time. That a lot of that stuff happened, and RPGs in general kind of wax and wane in popularity. One thing is cool, and then it goes back and forth, as to what. But one of the big things, like the three things that have stayed around the longest, have been the World of Darkness, Dungeons and Dragons, and Shadowrun.
I love me some Shadowrun. I'm sorry,
because Shadowrun is that system that just somebody will just pick up in an instant. And I really. For me, I was pretty upset when, White Wolf, got sold and all that happened.
Oh yeah.
We had a long time where it was like we were just grasping at straws to try to get
keep
players
our shit together.
and, get people hooked back into it. And now that there's a resurgence coming back, which I think is awesome, and makes me even more want to explore a lot of this stuff a lot more. I mean. Me going back and looking at a Changeling book, which when they came out, I would thumb through and go, no. Now I'm looking at it going, I'm seeing all this stuff that I missed before, so I can take a look at that stuff and I can see where me as a storyteller could possibly expand on it in my own little way.
Yeah, Changeling has a really bad habit of hiding character development in really awful places. Like that one Slua flaw at the end of the Slua Kith book that tells you that the Slua aren't reincarnating anymore. Seems like a major plot point. It's just a flaw at the end of the book that gets like a sentence.
See, now?
Yeah.
Or like the she's secondary flaw of not understanding how linear time works. That's character defining, and it's buried in a splat book in like a paragraph that nobody reads.
Kind of like the Tremere Pyramid, but that's a different story altogether.
Don't get me started.
You people just love fucking with me, don't you?
Well, I mean, if I wasn't doing it, I wouldn't like you.
That's true.
That means I don't like you.
Appreciate it.
If I don't mess with you, that means I don't like you.
Right. And listen, if I didn't want to be fucked with, I wouldn't play a Tremere. I mean, because we do catch a lot of flack. We do, but we can back up our shit, though. That's the thing. So, okay, I'm looking at the Cathane now. There are a few here that are mentioned that I wasn't familiar with. Merfolk.
Yep.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
They're changelings that live under the sea.
okay.
On
My,
the dust-
my, re-
I was
my
gonna say
red cap
duh,
was
but
my red cap was obsessed with trying to meet a merfolk because we had a Selkie in the group that had an ally that was a mermaid, and I kept nagging at her to introduce me because I wanted to hook up with a mermaid, but it never happened, and he was sad.
Yeah, and Changeling has this hard-on for making the water kiths really kind of gross.
well, like the river cags and the Selkies.
The Selkies are kind of okay, but I remember specifically the merfolk being allies of a lot of the shadow houses and the Lord, I can't remember their name. The water elementals, the Undines. They were like that part from Spirited Away where the big blobby thing comes out, and it turns out it was a river somewhere. They all kind of have that problem. Which is really cool social commentary that Changeling needed more of, but it's also gross.
By the way, since we're an hour and a half into it, I want to say hi to Lexi and Chris. Thank you for joining us. It looks like we did lose the listener that I was afraid I was going to offend. I think honestly she's had a crush on me for some time.
What was it when you called her out? That you
But
might
I
have
didn't
offended
use
her,
her name.
or
I didn't use
Oh.
her name.
you are getting better at that.
I try not to. I try not to offend people on air if I can avoid it, unless I'm deliberately going after. But yeah, sometimes it just doesn't. I know this is completely off topic, but sometimes it's just not there. You know what I mean? That's all I can say. So, moving on.
What about were sharks, man?
Were sharks? Yes.
Where did that come from? Somebody please, somebody, anybody, I don't care who it is, explain to me why.
Those
That-
things,
Bunch of
those things
unseelie
are
merfolk
brutal.
get ganged up on a game dev, and Nightmare wrote him. The end.
There you go.
Okay.
No.
Though I did have,
I know
have
of no
a,
story of anywhere besides, I mean, not even like, Jaws. I mean, no, I don't, I can't wrap my head
You're
around.
really having a hard time with this, aren't you?
Well, first of all, I'm deathly afraid of sharks because
Okay.
I've seen a great white right next to my boat. Okay, that like
Yeah,
when I was
that
in
would
Sea Scout.
definitely get your point across. Yeah.
All right, starting from there, and then I went to the an aquarium, and they actually made a mouth of a megalodon. You know, the world's and that was like it for me. I'm like, I'm done with sharks.
You're
You
right.
know,
Anything.
But
That's been
regardless
around
of
for
that-
60 million years, I got respect for though.
if somebody out there listening or watch, anybody can answer that question, man, ping me on that one, please.
I don't know.
'cause
Chris,
that-
Chris
all I
might have
know
something.
is-
Chris
because-
might have something to say about that.
all I know is for the were-sharks is I got a glorious character death in a crossover where my Gaki was eaten by a were-shark, but it was really good scene, so I'm okay with dying that way. But that does seem a little bit of an oddball combination.
I've been making fun of that for years, and nobody's ever been able to explain to me where it came from. And I had a feeling that there was probably a lot of alcohol involved.
Of course there was. All right, hold it together for a minute. AFK.
Watching Jaws over a bender.
Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't that be great? It goes back to Simon's thing about making all the water phages disgusting. Just that popped right into my head.
Yeah.
I mean, When you
Maybe
talk
we're
about
watching
water,
the avocado. What was it?
Yeah,
The
things that
Piranha
I'm
Women
scared
the
of.
Avocado Jungle of Death.
Well, and merfolk. Who says merfolk have to have like fish tails? Like, why can't they have like octopus tails? Why can't they
somebody
just be
else-
like octopus from waist down?
somebody else has seen that movie besides me.
I've
Which
heard
one?
the song about that movie.
Oh wow!
Which movie?
Piranha Women of the Avocado Jungle of Death.
I've heard of it. I've not seen it.
Oh wow! Okay. Oh, it's horribly bad and wonderful at the same time. But
Speaking of things that are horribly bad and wonderful at the same time, what about, bringing it back on topic, sorry, but what about the element of horror in each Kith? People don't generally look for those, and sometimes people find different ones in the same Kith.
oh, most definitely, man. Gosh, me. I mean, I don't know if it's a bad habit, but I can find horror in almost anything, especially when the whole genre is related to horror.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's a lot of inherently horrific things about all the different Kith and the different courts, for that matter. You know,
Right.
Well,
The one-
and that's what I kind of liked, because I never, like, from reading through the Changeling book, I just didn't really get a lot of that horror feel.
Yeah, I know.
So
Me
it was
either.
nice having an ST that did try to put a bunch of horror into it, and then after having that experience reading through, and then now I can kind of see a little bit more, like the red cap. I mean, it's not. Well, yeah, using the red cap as an existence, can you imagine being hungry all the time, no matter what you ate? It's like the movie Seven. Like, I mean, it's just like, can you imagine just never being satisfied, no matter how much you ate? And what would that day-to-day life be like?
It would suck.
And then knowing that you could eat anything to get rid of that hunger, and realizing that as you're sitting in your house, that, you know, your pet cat might be able to help stave off this hunger for 5 minutes. Or you're sitting on a subway and somebody bumps into you and irritates you, and the thought crosses your mind that you could eat that fucker.
Yeah.
And that really kind of helped me wrap my head around how to include horror into Changeling. So that's my 2 cents on it.
I mean, I was personally just thinking about, like, as a satyr, the worst possible thing I could possibly do to somebody that would be horrific would be to make them dance themselves to death just so I can get their glamour.
Otto's irresistible dance.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like it's things like that. Yeah, I mean, red caps, Slua. I mean, trolls too. I mean, yeah. So you get mad one day and accidentally, punch your best friend through the wall.
Well, that would suck.
Whoops.
Landlord's
Wow.
going to get mad.
How am I going to explain that one to mom? Mom, I broke Billy.
Yeah, right?
That's a rough one too.
Wait a minute. What the movie that Lexi was talking about, I think you were talking about Sharktopus, right?
No, it was Piranha. What was it again, Eric?
Piranha Women in the Amazon. No, fuck.
Piranha Women of the
Yeah,
Avocado Jungle of Death.
Thank you,
There we
Avocado
go.
Jungle of Death.
Thank you, Simon. Appreciate it.
Resident suppository of useless information.
Hey, that's all of us, man. Trust me. Anybody who plays any of the World of Darkness games has just way too much useless information floating around in our heads.
Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death, 1989.
I got it wrong.
That was it. Okay, I knew something.
Bill
was-
Maher is in it,
Really?
and Shannon Tweed,
Oh,
Yep.
please.
and Adrienne Barbeau.
Oh, okay. Well, that actually almost redeems it.
No,
Really?
no, it doesn't.
IMDb gives it a 4.8 out of
It's-
10.
No, it's a horrible, but yet great horrible movie.
Oh my goodness. You know, some of the subjects that pop up during these conversations is just, sometimes I wonder. I really do. Is it worth it? Yeah. Most definitely. Because we have way too much fun with this. Even when we go way off topic. So, okay. Simon, have you played any crossover games where the Fae would show up in a werewolf game? Or I mean, you mentioned one of the werewolf, but say mage or even vampire?
I've ST'd a couple of mage games where I've used the Fae as antagonists, primarily because of Sovereign, but like in the last game I ran, I had a PC, I had a player who I set down 2 rules at the beginning: no playing in Nefandus, because no, and what was the other one? No playing Technocracy until midpoint, because that's a plot point, sorry. And he made a hollow one who was extremely narcissistic, solipsistic, and probably sociopathic, who worshipped demons. So he was trying to get around the no Nefandi rule. And like, he wanted to mind control people over the internet. And I was like, dude, you got to take data or correspondence to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And he didn't. And then he made me role play a webcam session in front of the other players, because his character was a webcam. I can't think of the PC word, but a webcam taking off your clothes star. And
there's no such thing as PC on this show, dude. I don't
Anyway.
think you've noticed that yet.
So he started doing all this stupid, annoying stuff, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to let you do everything you want to do. And I'm going to do this by attaching tons and tons of strings. So I wrote out this side plot for every time he did something that annoyed me personally and derailed the game, where
Thou shalt not piss off the DM.
he ran into a she. He didn't know it was a she. He ran into a she at a nightclub who was like, hey, I've got this favor I need done, and here's this treasure. You know, I didn't use any of these words. It was all in character, but here's this treasure, and he gave him a policeman's badge. It was also imbued with like level 4 sovereign and the actor realm, so you could order people to do things, basically. And it was a cop badge, so it kind of had that power anyway to start with. The thing was that player and that character didn't ask what the strings were or what the favor was.
Right.
And I had this whole thing set up, very Fae-like, where it was going to be that they were looking for some kidnapped people, and that she was looking for a particular couple of childing changelings who had kidnapped that person. And they were going to bring them back into Kithane society and rehabilitate them into productive monsters rather than just random childish monsters. And so the favor was going to be that you have to give me the people who did the kidnapping, basically. And then he would have to either fight the other PCs on it, or, you know, they'd cave and let him do that favor, or he'd default on a sovereign enforced, dreaming enforced bargain, and he would still owe that Fae something, and then they'd come up with a worse favor, and then eventually, when, you know, he flaked on too many favors, he'd sell the mortgage to hell, and a Nefandi would show up and start giving him more power and more chances to be a horrible human being. Ooh. Until finally he fell.
Yeah. And
I could get rid of that PC.
See? Thou shalt not piss off the ST, man. I'm telling you. That's like commandment number 1.
Pretty much. But the thing is the relationships between the changelings and all the other World of Darkness supernaturals are tense at best, because the Fae are deal makers more than anything else, and they're really good at hiding the fact that they are really, really weak right now. And like, they've got a few tricks they do really well. Like there was that one dryad who convinced a werewolf that she was a totem spirit, and when he asked for a gift, she gave him the gift of fertility, which was the only thing she could do.
Right? Okay.
But
And by the
crossovers
way,
with
I'm just getting a big giggle out of Lexi's comments in the chat. She is just so much fun to have in the live show. She really is. Yeah, Simon, Lexi's one of Jacob's players from his LARP, I believe. Yes?
Not one of Chris's players.
Oh, one of Chris's players from the LARP.
I'm not the ST, so she's not my player.
Okay, yeah.
She's one of my nemeses
Possession
in
is
Chris's
9/10
LARP.
of the whatever.
Yeah.
creepy ownership issues going on here.
But yeah, she's a lot of fun to have on the live show. She can really get the room hopping, and I like having that kind of. By the way, folks, we got 15 new subscribers just since last show. So
Nice.
I'm hoping folks are spreading the word. Getting it out to the rest of to their friends who are also White Wolf peoples. Don't be a dick, dude. So one would hope that we can get. I expected it was going to take us about a year before we got some really good numbers rolling in, especially during the live shows, and we're finding out which shows work better with. Okay, for instance, what's our most popular show? Mage so far? Yeah.
I'd have to double check that. I think one of the our first shows got the most.
Yeah, the
views
vampire,
still.
but
Yeah, but
think
I
Mage is at
think
least
I
number
think
two.
the mage one, at least I think pretty sure the mage one is the one that we had the most on live at a time. Let's see, episode 11, Werewolf number 2 was at 70 some views. Women in Gaming was 165 views so far.
yeah.
That actually beat Mage, so our Women in Gaming is actually now our highest.
I guess our next Women in the Gaming show, we're gonna have to have Lexi on for that one. She looks like she could really throw some fun into that show. I mean, it was nice having Jessica and Vanessa on. That was great, and because especially since we couldn't get a hold of Danae. Danae recently became employed with White Wolf. Lucky bugger. And so she kind of had to bow out, and that's cool. We'll get her. She's really interested in joining us for a vampire show. She's I don't know if you know Danae, Simon. I know Eric does. She's in the vampire. She's the picture that they used for the Tremere.
Yeah, I heard you talking about that in one of the podcasts.
Yeah, she's awesome. I love her. She's great, and she's the one of the people who had been spending. I think what got the attention of White Wolf was that she was spending a lot of time, her own personal time and money and so on, translating White Wolf books into Spanish for her group, for her people, because I believe she was living in Barcelona. And so she's, like I said, I want her on really bad. And we're going to try and get, and I'm doing this because we've only got about 15 minutes left in the show, is that I want to do an artist show so that anybody who's listening now live and who may be listening over the next couple of weeks, please, if you know a person who's done art for White Wolf, I'd really like to get them on for this show. A couple of folks have either not responded or have declined. Leaf Anderson? No, not Anderson. He did a lot of the artwork for the what was it, Jacob? The second edition Vampire?
Revised.
Revised.
And not just Vampire, he did Mage and a bunch of the other stuff too.
But he's never played any of the games. So he didn't feel comfortable talking about it on the show, especially with us game nerds, And I told him, I was like, dude, it's not that big a deal. We want to talk about your art. We don't want to both, we're not going to, just because you haven't played doesn't mean we're going to give you crap about it. That's just not going to work. Beginner LARP not playing. Stop, dude.
But yeah, if you didn't miss it when it came up, Lexi said that if you want a beginner's LARP episode, she'd be willing to be a guest for that.
Okay, well, we are doing a pity party prior to the Grand Masquerade, and I want to try and get more folks on than just 4 for that particular show. So, Lexi, if you want to join us for the pity party, if you're not going to the Grand Masquerade, we would love to have you. Huh?
I'm not, because I have to direct a show right now.
I know. No, we're and
I'm gonna start crying now, man. I'm already.
No, I mean, but you're not a LARPer though, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah,
Okay.
I've done.
Well,
like
technically speaking, fucking being a stage actor makes you a LARPer, but
No, actually, when it comes to playing these games, I have actually done all, the gamut.
Yeah. You've done more than most of us, and that's one of the reasons we love having you on.
And that's not like, waving my metaphorical penis around, but yeah, it's just
no, and that's one of the reasons we like having you back is that you can cover stuff that maybe Jacob and I haven't done, and like I said, I got my start with LARPing. I didn't tabletop until years later. It wasn't, and that was because it was just more fun for me to LARP than it was to sit around saying, well, I do this. No, it's bullshit. I shoot you in the face with a shotgun's what I do.
I mean, it's gone back and forth because there have been a lot of times where, a lot of our LARP players we'd also play tabletop together and LARP on the weekend. So it was like, and then lately, though, it's been a lot more tabletop than LARP around here, but it's getting a resurgence right now, or in this area. So, like I said, it's an ebb and flow thing. One thing becomes popular, and then because right now I have a lot of my actor friends are beating on me about wanting to LARP now.
Absolutely.
So
that'd be right up their alley.
I got to figure that out. How I'm going to direct a show and other gaming stuff that I do, and then run a LARP.
Lexi, stop! You're killing it, man.
Oh, I just clicked off because it was giving me feedback in the chat.
Oh no! I heard penis. She's so sweet. I love her to death. She's awesome.
All right.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So, how is your LARP running? I know, Jacob. How have you guys played recently, or?
This coming up weekend is our Modern Knights game, and that means not this past weekend, but the weekend before was our Dark Ages game. So I'm still I've only done a couple sit-ins with the Modern Knights, but I've been offered a boon to annoy the fuck out of somebody this weekend, so I'm looking forward to doing that. And the Dark Ages game is turning out to be pretty interesting. So I'm curious to see where some of the storylines are going. There's a lot of tension going on right now that's either going to have some people smacked down and put in their place, or the whole area is just going to erupt into a big war. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, we're going to have to get an update on that one. I do love hearing about your LARPs since I don't get to play.
The Ardry, the big king of the area, is going to be attending our next gather to lay down the law. So we'll see how that works out.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, Simon, do you hear about anybody LARPing Changeling?
I'm not much of a LARPer, so no.
Oh, now we can't have that.
That's where I got into trouble.
That's true. You did mention that.
That is exactly where I got into trouble. Honestly, I did. Well, people had fun. I will say that.
Yeah.
But I created that character, and I warned them ahead of time, and they said, "Sure, go ahead
for it. Yeah, let's do this."
Okay,
fuck all that.
All right, man.
Yeah,
and one thing
they want you to do it until you do it.
The only thing that guy could do was talk pretty much anybody into doing anything he wanted, for the most part, which obviously involved a lot of, if you gave him a few tokens for the machine, that was all good, Yeah.
Okay, I just got a notification. I hope everybody's still getting the stream okay live. We're getting some bad video settings. I'm not exactly sure what's going on, especially since I'm running at less than 1 frame a second, since we don't actually broadcast video, because nobody wants to see me.
I wouldn't want to see me right now, but normally.
And apparently nobody wants my upskirts, according to the chat, so I guess.
I saw that.
It's a good thing we got the video shut
What
off.
the hell were you thinking?
I was thinking we were talking about cam girls.
Yes,
and,
I know.
It just seemed like a logical
It was
extension
perfect.
of the conversation.
Yeah.
See, now you know why I love my co-host. It's just something wrong with it, man. I don't know what the fuck it is, but there's something wrong with him. So, how come you don't? I mean, I know Eric has done it, but why? Let's throw it open. Why don't you think it would be more readily available as a PC, even in cross games?
I feel like I missed the beginning of the question.
Yes, I think I missed half that question too.
Okay.
I got all of it.
Do you wish me to switch to Aramaic?
Maybe.
No.
No, the other thing is the books. It's another book issue, honestly. The LARP book for Changeling made things really difficult, especially because the bunks you had to come up with were things you had to actually be able to do. That was the one rule that messed a lot of people up.
Oh, okay.
So we're still doing bunks.
Like toting a freaking spinning wheel into the LARP. That would, yeah. I can see how that could be a problem.
So first edition Changeling had this weird system for the bunks where they had a deck of cards and you drew bunks from them that you had to charade out.
I remember that. That was cool. I liked that.
It was also kind of a problem.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Like, if you're using Sovereign, you're probably not going to recite the March Hare's poem in order to, bind somebody.
I would.
Yeah, I would too. I'd have to go
And
back
now we have
remember
words
it, but
everywhere.
yeah.
But that's the thing. One of the good changes from first edition to second edition was getting rid of the bunk cards, in my opinion, because they were really, really silly. And it sounds like that was a problem in the LARP too.
Yeah, it was the biggest problem with the LARP was the role playing aspect of it, so much as it was the bunk system was really. I mean, you really had to. I mean, one, I always liked my players to think, come up with cool ideas, but the bunk system was just. I mean,
How did you?
it falls into that category of what do I bring to the LARP that won't get me arrested category.
Yeah.
You know?
And how did you handle? How did the LARP game handle chimerical stuff? I mean, you're
you just-
already doing make believe. Do you have to say like I'm make believing that I make believe this thing?
Yes, you did. Yes, that's
God.
exactly. Yeah, that was honestly a lot of. Eventually, a lot of Changeling games turned into tabletop with rock paper scissors.
I can see that.
Same with like Mage. The book they said they would never write and then did, and then were mad that they wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up being the same thing. So
Yeah, I can see how dealing with chimerical reality would be really hard in a LARP, and that's half the game.
Yep. And
Yeah, I could see where it'd be similar to the problems with LARPing Mage or Ravenos, is that it's right. You're tossing out there things that you just can't necessarily pull out of your tickle chunk.
I mean, I could. I'd just get arrested.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, that's a Canadian term. I don't know if we have time to explain.
No, you got plenty of time. Go for it, man.
It's a children's show, Mr. Dress Up. He had a tickle trunk. So it was always like for dress-up clothes or some scene toy or anything like that. So he'd always go to his tickle trunk. So that's...
The tickle
that
trunk
is
chimerical, sounds like.
Wow, that sounds like something completely different to me.
Yeah, probably.
That sounds like a weekend I've had a couple times.
Like going for a ride in the struggle buggy.
Freaking Canadians. What the hell's wrong with you people?
They're fun, man.
I know, right?
I live right near the border, so they're a hoot. I live up here in Toledo, which is near Detroit, which is right where.
Yeah, it's right
Canada
across
is.
the. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ontario.
We get Canadians down here a lot, so.
And by the way, yes, Lexi, you were invited for the pity party. Just so there will be no misunderstanding. Yes, you got invited. As long as my co-host thinks it's okay.
Oh, sure, put that on me.
No, I'm just giving you the option to...
I could make a decision for y'all.
No, that's all right, man. That's all right. We can do this. Because I really would like to have her on. I really would. She has been a really good supporter of the whole podcast thing. And she's been with us quite a few times for the live show. And she seems to have a lot of fun with it. So I think having her on would be even cooler. I really do. So, yes, you are officially invited for the pity party. And we'll get you on also for the next Ladies of Gaming show, which seems to be one of our most popular shows. I don't know why. I mean, I don't. I did, and I don't mean that to come across as sexist or anything. I'm thinking that there would be much more popular subjects, werewolf, vampire, whatever.
Honestly, a lot more women are gravitated to World of Darkness games than any other game there is.
Yeah, I did. I think I mentioned that on more than one occasion. Is that women seem to be more inclined to play WOD as opposed to D&D or Shadowrun or Now, granted, there are more of them in the MMOs, but some of them even hide because they don't want to have to, get all the unwanted attentions. Because there are some people out there that just really irritate the hell out of me. Hitting on women that they have absolutely no business hitting on. And then not only that, when they get shut down, they just continue to keep doing it. And it's really, really annoying. Vanessa, yeah, she was also one of our folks.
Oh, sorry, my mic was on.
No, that's all
Sorry.
right, man. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, you were talking about people being horrible to women in particular spaces, and I was a while back thinking about a really awful way to short circuit that in Changeling, because you've got that dual nature in the game where you've got this fey soul, which is parasitically glommed onto a human being, if you're lucky, and the fey soul might have a gender that is discordant with the body's gender.
Ah.
So
Actually-
you could have a character who, like, say I was a female person, which I am not. Say I was. I could totally go with my mundane appearance is this woman. I am a gigantic, nasty, Acene she berserker who is male. Fuck you. You've offended my honor by hitting on me because I'm a dude.
Yeah.
Actually, one of our guys who was when we were LARPing Changeling, did that. He looked like a woman, but he's actually and he dressed up and everything. So yeah, that exact thing would happen.
5 awesome points to that guy.
Right? Yeah, right. I have them too. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have exceeded our allotted time for this evening. I want to thank Eric, of course, for coming back and joining us even when he wasn't feeling so hot, and I appreciate it, man. I really do.
Yeah, no problem, man. I'm gonna go lay down and I gotta take the dogs out first. But yeah, that's the plan.
All right, man.
Thanks, guys. It's always a hoot.
And Simon, thank you again for joining us for Changeling.
You for having me.
Appreciate it, and of course, we will most likely have you back for our next Changeling show. I'm not exactly sure when that's going to be, to be honest. I just don't know. We don't schedule more than 4 or 5 shows ahead, so.
Sometimes we alter the schedule too.
Yeah, actually tonight
random
was
intervals.
supposed to be Mage, but I goofed, and that was my bad. But that's okay.
Chimerical nature of schedules.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and
No
of
linear
course,
time.
my wonderful co-host Jacob. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
No worries. That's what I'm here for.
That's
More
right.
than just a pretty face.
And I want to thank our live audience. I appreciate it, Chris, who's probably already bailed on us, but that's cool. Lexi and Vanessa. Vanessa, thank you. And we are going to be going off the air now. So y'all have a good night. And please, if you have somebody who is into the world of darkness, doesn't matter what game, please let them know. Go ahead and share our page over at Facebook. And Sabrina, thank you again. Also having her over tonight. And we will see you guys in 2 weeks when it will be a Mage show. I'm saying this now because that'll commit us to actually doing it right. So. Yeah, that's what he says. So, all right, guys. Y'all have a good night, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Good night, y'all. Everybody say good night.